Hello and welcome to Speaking Out on Financial Abuse. Stories of survival and hope after financial abuse in a marriage or romantic partnership. I'm your host, Lori G. And what does an advocate exactly do to help and support victims and survivors of domestic abuse? I'm excited to welcome from Wayne County, Michigan, the nonprofit organization First Step. First Step has been working for peaceful families and safe communities in Wayne County, providing comprehensive services for survivors of domestic and sexual violence for several decades. 3 of their very talented and committed staff are here today to talk to us about advocacy and how it works in action. Khersie, Julie, Juniper, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
So where in the world are you now, and where are you originally from?
I'll go first. I am Khersie, and my position at First Step is residential program aide. Right now, I'm in Inkster, Michigan, but I'm originally from Detroit.
Awesome. Julie?
Hi, I'm Julie. I live in Metro Detroit, and I work as an advocate at First Step. I help support our non-shelter clients through phone and in-person sessions.
And Juniper?
So my name is Juniper. Pronouns are both she and they. I'm currently living in Ypsilanti, Michigan. That's where I'm originally from. And my position at First Step is the crisis intervention advocate. I have a really unique role where I work with clients from all of our programs at the agency.
Excellent. Well, before we dive in and discuss all that First Step does to support the victims and survivors of abuse in the Detroit metropolitan area, can you each tell us how you got involved in this field of domestic violence? Whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I'll go first. So I originally started working in a residential working with teenage girls. And then once that went underway, I decided to make the transition into domestic violence. So I am in school for social work, and domestic violence was one of the populations that I knew I wanted to serve from gathering the information that I got from my education. So when I saw that the job was available at First Step, I jumped on that and was very happy to be able to work here and work in the field that I wanted to with the population that I wanted to.
This is Julie. I began volunteering regularly at a young age and really enjoyed my college learning about health and social justice and women's studies. And from there, I decided to work in the nonprofit sphere, and I landed at 2 domestic violence agencies where I became passionate about these issues. And I've been at First Step now for 19 years.
So this is Juniper, and I got into this work, honestly, from personal experience as a young kid. Being a survivor myself of both domestic and sexual violence, I think that along the way, I just became very passionate about showing up for fellow survivors. And so that kind of started as me doing advocacy in high school after going through my own criminal justice experience, I guess. So I started doing advocacy around consent and then also diving into period poverty. And then before I became a staff member at First Step, I worked at 2 other domestic violence agencies as well. And I just continued to fall in love with the work. It's something I'm very passionate about. And yeah, I've been at First Step since about January. So
Wow, you're all so impressive. You're all veterans. You weren't just at First Step. You've also been committed to this with other organizations. And that's really extraordinary to have that continuous day-to-day commitment. But First Step has been serving the Southeast Michigan area for quite a few decades. How did First Step start, and how did you expand to where you are now?
First Step was created back in 1978, and we started with a shelter and advocacy services for domestic violence survivors. Expanded our services through the 80s and the 90s, adding our sexual assault services, our assault response services, our 24-hour helpline, began supporting clients who were coping with involvement with systems like police and criminal court. We began providing children's services. And in the decades since, we moved into a newer shelter. We've expanded our staff. We've expanded our outreach services till where we are today.
Well, you offer such a wide range of services. Can you walk us through how your approach is guided by principles like safety, empowerment, meeting survivors where they are, because we're all in a different place when we come to you? What does that support look like when someone first reaches out to First Step for help?
So most of the time, survivors reach out to us via our helpline, and we just listen to them and try to help them see what their next steps are and what they want to do and how we can assist them with the various programs that we have here. Not everybody maybe wants to leave. Maybe we just need safety planning, so we work on that. Or maybe they just need to vent and talk about what they're going through. And as we talk about meeting them where they are, is exactly that. Talking to them, seeing what they want to do, empowering them to do what they feel is best for them versus what we think they should do. And then again, giving them a safety plan that'll help them when things start to look a little dangerous or make them feel unsafe. So I think we do a really good job of that and helping our survivors feel comfortable to come to us and talk to us about what they're going through and helping them to remain safe, whatever their situation is.
That's actually unique because I think with the empowerment philosophy, it can be a little different than what people expect when they reach out to a service provider, that meeting someone wherever they're at the journey, that we're a sounding board, but we're not here to give advice. There may be information or resources, information about how the system works that we can fill in that might be new territory for a client, but it is kind of a collaborative process with the survivor.
Well, you may be the only voice they've ever heard other than one individual for years.
I think another really important piece about safety and empowerment is the way I like to put it is we offer a buffet of options for survivors. We lay out all of the different resources and possibilities in the space to process and the different services that we offer, or even tailoring the resources or the support that a survivor might need if they are a trans survivor or if they are a survivor who is using substances and wants to not use those substances anymore. So it's really taking a look at the whole individual, the whole person, and not just taking a look at the experience of domestic violence, but we're taking a look at the domestic violence and how it impacts all of those different identities or just how you show up in the world. And so I think what we're really able to do is truly meet survivors where they are. And so if that means that we have a survivor that's calling the helpline and they're actively using a substance, we're not going to say, you need to stop using a substance before you can get in contact with our services. We're going to lean into empathy and active listening and being understanding to understand that this person might be using substances to cope. This person might be using substances as something that was introduced to them by the assailant. And so we don't want to just look at things as a one size fits all. What do all of these things look like in practice with all of the resources and the education, the information that we have? How can we tailor that and support survivors where they are by showing them these are all things? And now we're here to just support you and be a guide and a positive person that you can land with.
That to me sounds like the core of advocacy is, first of all, being that voice. All support organizations promote and talk about advocacy, but advocacy can mean different things to different people. What does advocacy look like in practice to you? And how do advocates hands-on support survivors who are navigating these emotional, financial, and other forms of abuse? Tell us what advocacy is. What is the role of an advocate in practical terms?
In practical terms, we're having a conversation with someone, whether in person or over the phone or on Zoom, and we're getting pieces of their story, their needs and their goals. And from there, we may be providing some information about abuse, what resources are available, safety planning, providing emotional support and empathy along the way, normalizing their trauma responses that they're experiencing, helping sort out some of the goal setting, some of the very next steps, breaking it down into steps that feel doable and less overwhelming. We're checking in on their self-care and their coping, if they have much of a support system, if they can strengthen that in any way. So we're not making assessments or judgments or diagnoses or doing deep dives into their trauma histories. It's very accessible, very practical. Our name says it well, first step, right? We're here in the immediate aftermath of abuse for many of our clients. We do have a few staff who are available to provide longer-term counseling when people are safer, a little more removed from the initial trauma and ready to do a little bit more of a deep dive. We do have some staff that do that, but most of our work is crisis intervention. People are still dealing with that person or have recently. So it's very much in the present moment.
And you're providing trauma-centered, culturally responsive approaches to supporting survivors. You are a voice for them.
We do get questions about PPOs. So we do have a PPO advocate that helps out with any questions that they have, if they need help filling out the forms or if they need help in court. So a lot of times we get those type of questions because sometimes a part of leaving a situation includes protection in that way. So a lot of times the questions are surrounding PPOs. As far as any other legal services, we do have different referrals that we give clients that they can receive free legal aid.
That's fantastic. People are afraid to reach out because they don't think they can afford to, as part of that first step, getting some type of legal referral.
And if any listeners don't know what a PPO is, it stands for Personal Protection Order.
To somebody who doesn't know anything, to a layman, what can I expect from an advocate?
When I'm working with clients, advocacy really looks like, first and foremost, I always like to start with letting folks know what our confidentiality policy is, because I believe as an advocate, it's my role to ensure that people have the information that they need to make informed choices for them and their families. And so I like to start off with letting them know that confidentiality, because I don't want them to disclose something regarding a child or an adult that is unable to care for themselves. I don't want them to disclose those things and then I have to go, oh, hey, by the way, I have to report that. I would like to rather be very transparent up front, because we're working with folks who don't have a lot of autonomy. And so that's what my initial conversation is always looking like. This is our confidentiality policy. And then if I do have any concerns, this is what it will look like. And then I always just kind of start out with a grounding check-in kind of thing, because it's really hard to not come into a new space where you're walking in and it says peaceful families, peaceful communities, and you're experiencing domestic violence. It's really hard not to walk into that space and feel like you have to talk about the most traumatizing experiences of your life. And so I always like to just start out with like, do you have a snack? Do you have water? Do you have medication that you need to take? Is it med time? Checking in with those basic needs, because it's incredibly impossible to expect anyone to be able to show up in the advocacy space where they are getting connected with resources or they are processing their trauma if their most basic needs aren't met. And so then maybe sometimes we're talking about the relationship history or the current safety concerns, and we're going over a safety plan, and we're, as a collaborative unit, doing the safety planning, because I am not an expert in their situation. I don't know what their home layout is. I don't know what tactics the abuser is using, but I do know what safety planning looks like and what goes into safety planning. So it's an informed conversation that is led by the survivor. And then I'm collecting resources for them or with them, coming up with collaboratively with some goals that they would like to achieve in advocacy. And then also being honest about our limitations as an agency. We are not able to give housing vouchers. We are not able to give money for particular things or at all sometimes. Again, like to be transparent, because if that's something that you need, let's get you the support that you need. And then I always just close my sessions out with checking in with folks, seeing how they're feeling. If they would like to set up another appointment, just doing an overall check-in. Is there anything you need support with before leaving? Is there any resources that I can get you? Here's my contact information if you need to reach out before our next session. Here's the helpline number if you need crisis support in the moment. And then I always make sure that they know where the bathroom is so they can take care of their bodily needs, get the personal care items that we have in the bathroom for clients to take. And then I always show them our little client giveaway area, because sometimes folks are not able to go to the store and get toothpaste. So I take the opportunity to just show them the stuff that we have. And I always tell them, take what you need. It's your business. I'm not concerned or worried about what you do. Take what you need and be mindful that we have other folks that also are in need. I just let them know that this is your stuff. And then on the off chance that something may come up in a session where maybe they haven't eaten in a few days because they don't have the capacity to cook for themselves, or they've been in a really triggered space or an unsafe space, so they haven't been able to cook or clean or whatever. If I have availability to do so, I always try to offer like a gift card. If I have like a Taco Bell gift card and they like Taco Bell and it comes up in a session, try to be intentional and mindful in that way of just making note of what I have to offer and then listening to the client throughout the session and being like, hey, this is what I can't offer. These are some resources that might be able to offer the other stuff that you're looking for. So
I think one of the great things about advocacy, and I'm not an advocate, but I do see with clients sometimes the benefits of it, is providing the clients a place to be heard and also providing them a space to put a name on things. So people don't know that certain things that they experience is a form of abuse. or that they get to name their feelings that they're experiencing. But more importantly, a lot of them, like Juniper mentioned earlier, don't have a lot of autonomy. And so advocacy creates a space where they can exercise a little bit of autonomy. They get to choose their future looks like, and they get to be heard from the things that they're experiencing without feeling judgment, and just getting that empowerment and getting a partner to help them get to the goal that they've set for themselves.
You're really lighting a path.
And I thought of a few more things too that I think all of us do in our differing roles that are kind of at the root of it too. I think we're always affirming survivors' capability, because that's part of the autonomy too. Just that's often kind of been diminished by the abuser, but reminding a lot of survivors that they may already manage a household with little abuser help, and encouraging self-compassion. And that's like such a strong alternative to that voice of the abuser that can run in their head. It's treating yourself like you treat a good friend. Like you would not say these things to a friend going through this. So treat yourself with that same level. Just like other people are not better than others, you are not worse than others. You are not behind. You are human too, and you're allowed to give yourself some grace, cut yourself some slack. And I think we're also reminding clients that this is not personal, that it's not their fault, but also just that it's hard to find a way out. We are living in an affordability crisis, and the social safety net is not what it should be. And that is not their fault. That's our society's failures in not providing enough resources. No one should have to stay living in any living situation that does not work or is unhealthy in any way. Abuse most of all, but really any way that housing is unhealthy. We should have ways to help people get out of that and funding for that. And so helping put that into context, that piece is not their fault, but we'll slowly see what ideas and planning we can still piece together to slowly hit those stepping stones along the way to get to that goal that they were setting for themselves, whatever that might look like. And a lot of what we're also doing is helping unwind the overwhelm, right? We're kind of having them give credit to themselves for the things they already have done. They've done some emotional labor or inner work to reach out to us. Something has already happened inside of them, some inner work to lead to reach out. So they have done a lot of work already for themselves, even if they don't see it. It's normal with humans and anxiety to always be looking ahead and seeing the goals ahead and not reflect back on how far we've come, right? When most of us should pause and do that, because that's very motivating. We have to celebrate our small wins, no matter how small. It might be someone getting a safe new phone. Maybe that's their starting point. Maybe someone secured their vital documents somewhere. Maybe someone reached back out to their friend that they'd lost touch with, so they have a lifeline for themselves. All of those are wins to celebrate.
That's such a great point. We're so helpless coming for help. It's almost impossible to imagine that someday you could recoup some type of autonomy. And that leads victims to so many reasons why they don't leave. Financial, obviously, being a huge one. But there is another one, and I see that it's something you are committed to doing something about, and that's pets. Let's talk about one of the most common reasons victims do not leave their abusive situation, and that is their pets, from their dog down to the gerbil. And both pets and children really point to finances and financial abuse when it comes to leaving an abusive partnership. Pets are often used as a psychological weapon to keep you from leaving, and boarding a pet can be as pricey as a child's daycare. And many victims end up staying or traumatically having to leave their pet behind when they're escaping abuse. First Step has this exciting resource that you call ARC, A-R-K, that you offer to address this major barrier in seeking safety. What is ARC, and how does ARC help pet owners who need to escape an abusive partnership with their pets?
So ARC is an acronym standing for Animals Receiving Kindness. It is our animal shelter here on our premises. And so we take any pet that is legal in the state of Michigan. For a lot of people, pets are more than just animals in their home, their family. And sometimes we don't know if that pet serves as an emotional support animal, if that pet has also experienced abuse, if the children need that pet for emotional support. There are a lot of different reasons why that pet could end up in shelter with the client. And one of the things about it is it helps save people in many ways. A lot of people do stay because they don't want want something to happen to their animal or they can't live without their animal. And I've experienced a lot of calls where that is a major concern because they're like, well, I don't want to go into shelter and I can't bring my dog because I don't want to leave my dog there. And I don't want to give up my animal either because it helps in my situation. So I'm grateful that we have the ARC, and I know a lot of clients are as well.
It must make the complete difference between staying or leaving.
We even did an informal survey when we were looking at the needs for the ARC, maybe back in 2018, with our clients that we were offering shelter space to over the phone. And 45% of them said that they would decline the space. They wouldn't have an option for their pets. So our informal internal polls showed that the need was really there.
You said, I think it's any kind of pet. A kid bring their goldfish, their gerbil, their hamster to the ARC?
As long as that pet is legal in the state of Michigan, we can have it.
That's really great.
So if you have a lizard, a gerbil, things of that nature, if it's legal, we can have it.
That's really fantastic. And you also do a lot of very critical community outreach with the education and prevention side of domestic and sexual abuse. Why do you think community engagement is so imperative? And what positive results have you seen because of your outreach to the public?
Well, besides spreading awareness about our organization, the education piece is really important because there are a lot of myths about abuse out there. I think one of the common myths is that abuse is kind of incident-based when really it's a whole web, a whole pattern of behaviors. It's like taking hostage of someone's life because most survivors experience emotional abuse, financial abuse, some experience physical abuse. It can include spiritual abuse, use of your identities or your communities against you. It just takes many forms. And sometimes people don't realize the diversity of tactics that abusers use and the depths of that, the depths of someone essentially taking hostage of your life. And there's kind of myths about mutual abuse out there, myths about who's an abuser and who's a survivor. And there's so much that the media puts out there in songs, movies, all of these things that just don't get at what it really looks like in practice with people. And so we get to kind of have our audiences that we reach out to have more empathy for what a survivor is going through and understand the depths of it more.
Well, how can community members support this work?
They can volunteer. There's many different avenues to volunteer. We have garden volunteers. We've had people volunteer to come clean. There's so many different ways to show up for us. We have a gala coming up and buying tickets to that supports. There's so many different ways because we just ask that community members do what they can to support. We have people who donate personal care items, they donate food, donate your time, donate your services, whatever you can, as long as it's done from a good place and it's done from your heart and you just honestly want to help out these survivors and do what you can. I think it's great to see how many people in different organizations support us. It's amazing how much we see from our community members.
Despite any challenges you see, what continues to give you hope for the future of this work?
The federal funding has been in flux for a number of years. A lot of our funding comes from the Victims of Crime Act, and there are less funds in that federally right now. So that is something we're having to monitor, and we're having to get creative in our fundraising, find less restrictive grants, new resources, local foundations. It can take many forms. So that's a piece of it. And obviously, as funding in general shifts, we know that people who've dealt with financial abuse especially deal with that, and especially deal with this affordability crisis. So we're getting creative in what resources we can give to clients, what partnerships with other organizations we can have. For example, we also have a new partnership with an organization in Wayne County with us called Avalon Healing, and they're a sexual assault service provider in the city of Detroit. And we are working with them in a partnership where if a client has experienced strangulation in certain communities in our region, they can reach out to Avalon for a nurse exam, for advice on how to care for themselves medically, for evidence collection. And we come in and we provide the advocacy and safety planning piece and the emotional support piece. So we have a lot of projects floating despite the challenges. And that part is still exciting to see. Sometimes great creativity comes out of tough times.
I also see food insecurity being an issue. Sometimes clients are leaving with their families and coming into shelter. And sometimes we have really big families. And then financial financial abuse, sometimes hear stories of an assailant maybe not feeding them or not giving them the money to have food. And so in shelter, we make it so they could go into our kitchen and our pantry and grab whatever they need any time of day and night. We don't lock any doors. We don't put a time restriction on it. We kind of give them that autonomy to be able to go in there and shop the food that's in there and to be able to eat and feed their families without having to worry. And I think with some of the grants that we get, like organizations like Kids Table, United Way have made it possible for me to shop food for the shelter. Kids Table for sure lets me get produce for our clients so they don't go without healthy food. And making sure these families are fed really helps. Because as Julie mentioned, federal funding goes up, it goes down. Sometimes we just don't have it. And so getting grants from great organizations to help us out and making sure these families stay fed really help. And it really eliminates the food insecurity that they may have been experiencing before entering our shelter.
Well, it's really exciting what you're doing in Detroit. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. You're all such dynamic people with such strong histories and being committed to this field of domestic violence and being really selfless service to daily victims and survivors of abuse. How do each of you stay personally grounded working in this very challenging field of domestic violence and its very known high burnout rate? What keeps you motivated and enthusiastic and ready to reach for that next challenge?
For me, I value the ability to do ethical work, and that motivates me, and I have gratitude for that. And I've really found over the years that First Step has some of the kindest, most intelligent, and diverse staff around. And it's really created a community where we can talk about tough things. We're all people who are up for tough conversations. And sometimes that's where change happens, by being willing to have deep conversations with one another. And I think that helps me personally stay resilient. And I think we help each other through that process. I think the other thing, of course, is we hear clients' successes and wins. Those are very much part of the work too, not just the hard stories. We do get to see those journeys in our clients as well, whether they're in shelter or they're working with an advocate like me over time. We get to hear them. And then personally, I think just taking good care of myself. There's a lot more emphasis on helping the helper, on taking care of yourself. It's a message we give to our clients, especially those who are parents, to take care of themselves, because that's the foundation to be able to take care of others and to take care of your community. So I try to take that personally. So I make sure I'm spending quality time outside of work with my family and reading and strength training and maybe even maintaining a dark sense of humor when I need to. Things definitely fuel me.
That's great.
I think for me, it's rewarding to see their growth. Sometimes I do clients' intakes, and so I see them come in visibly battered, sometimes emotionally battered, and seeing them in a way at their lowest. And then over the next coming weeks, seeing them come out of their shell, finding themselves again, doing simple things like maybe doing their hair again or doing their makeup again and getting excited about that. And once they start building their lives again and the excitement they get when they find housing and they know they're getting ready and have a new beginning, it's great to see. And I love to see it. And so sometimes it can become very hard and tough to hear some of the things that clients have experienced, but the reward is so much greater than that. Seeing them be happy and excited about life again is so much better than any tough thing that I've heard. What does keep me grounded is also the team that I work with. I have so many amazing coworkers, amazing leadership where there's always an open door and we can always talk and process if it's too hard or if I need a day to just be like, the vibes aren't right and I'm not going to be able to do it today. I'm supported in that because our mental health is just as important. And I think a lot of times we forget because we're used to working in this field and taking care of others. Sometimes we forget to take care of ourselves. I mean, we've all had training in vicarious trauma and how to take a step back when we need to. And it's just about making sure we do take that step back, making sure we do take our breaks and take a minute to woosah or process when you need to. And so I've been blessed and lucky to have found coworkers who provide a safe ear and a safe space for me to process. It's great seeing everyone be just as passionate and be there for you as well.
What keeps me in this field is understanding that domestic violence is a problem within my communities, whether it's faith community or identity-based community or just the literal community that I live in. It's a problem. And so I believe that it's a part of my duty to support survivors and also raise awareness around domestic and sexual violence. And then what keeps me grounded is my faith. I love to hang out with my pets. I have 2 dogs and a cat. I like to travel with my partner. I've recently picked up the hobby of crocheting, so that's been really grounding for me, even though I don't know what I'm making yet. But I think it's also a part of what keeps me in this work is understanding that I am an ever-changing human, and what I need to stay in this work and to stay grounded and to be able to show up as my best self every day, I have to be compassionate with myself and understand that it's always going to look different. And sometimes I need to pull out something different from the toolbox. Therapy is also a really helpful space for me personally. And then also kind of touching on what Khersie said, I've been blessed with such great coworkers and community.
And the community of Detroit is blessed to have First Step in the 3 of you remarkable women. Khersie, Juniper, Julie, we're all grateful to have had the chance to meet you and hear about First Step and the powerful work you are doing to support victims and survivors of domestic violence in Wayne County, Michigan, which includes the city of Detroit. I'll list First Step's links and information below. This is Lori G., and we're speaking out on financial abuse.